Hello, this is Adam Zilka with Fire Gang Dental Marketing, and we're here with Mike White as part of our Practice Growth Summit. Mike comes from MWA Advisors, and what I want to do today is just kind of talk to Mike and understand more about what it is that he can do for growing dental practices and how he might be able to provide some good advice. So thank you, Mike, for joining me here. Um,
Yes, absolutely.
what I'd like to start with is, can you tell us a little bit about your background and kind of like why you started, MWA, CPAs, and business advisors?
Yeah, absolutely. So started the organization 10 years ago, going on my 10th year anniversary this year when I was the ripe old age of 26. At the age of 26, I didn't know any better, but no, really, I knew the focus for small business owners, and certainly as I've become one, I felt like there was a need in the marketplace. One of my best friends at the time was telling us and telling me his CPA didn't give him advice. It was just, here's a tax return, here's a financial statement or an audit. It was so transaction driven. There wasn't a relationship. There wasn't advice throughout the year. And really has driven me ever since then to be a team member, be an advisor for the client and the small business owner ever since then. Fast forward, we're about 60 employees out of North Texas, but we have clients in 34, 35 states today. And ever since 2010, I acquired a 62-year-old healthcare consulting firm that launched me into the dental and medical space. Now today, primarily I speak in the multi-location dental groups, and we certainly work with some solo practitioners as well, but we have found a nice niche in the multi-location DSOs, and we've been fortunate enough to focus on accounting, tax, and consulting, where it gets into management consulting on structures and process procedures, how to hire and fire, what the employee handbook, the OSHA, all that good stuff looks like, all the way to financial consulting and benchmarks and budgets and driving KPIs, key performance indicators, and holding teams accountable to that, ultimately to drive bottom line profit and help the business owners and the doctors achieve their goals. So now
Awesome.
we have
Yeah.
about 400 or some odd practices nationwide, and see about 3 to 4 exits successfully a year. So it's exciting for us to be a part of that.
That's awesome, man. I love what you guys do. I think that it's. I mean, I've always had business advisors and CPA advisors and so on, and I'm a huge proponent to that in terms of needing that for growth, because you just never know it all. But in my experience, any dental practice that works with people like you guys is always outperforming those that don't. So again,
Absolutely.
kudos to you guys.
Absolutely.
I would highly recommend anyone look at that. Look to you or look to a company like yours for advice, because that's how you're going to get to that next step, in my opinion. So
I
so
agree. If you ever seen one of my formal presentations, it's every one of my last slide is always build your team. And ever since I've got into this space, I mean, you share the sentiment. We were chatting before we got on. Ever since I got into the space, the same people that I surrounded myself are still my team, my attorney, my insurance, my wealth advisor. Those are the people I lean on to advice. And now I have two great partners as well. But not everybody has a partnership. So build that advisory team around you and the marketing team, everybody who's trying to see you succeed. So it's a great point you made, and I second that.
so why should a business owner's most trusted advisor be their CP? I see that in some of your material.
Yeah, it's a great insight, and it's one of those things that we strive to live up to each day. That's just been the mantra of the CPA profession. We should be your most trusted advisor, and the reason we believe that, and the reason we've really built our organization, as a dental CPA and dental specific CPA in a lot of areas, most of the peers that we come up against, what we have found, really in the DSO space, there's very few DSO specific CPAs that truly understand what a DSO is, what a shared services is, what all the legalese and the contracts behind that are. But what we also found is most CPAs are also focused on wealth management, and they're trying to be the end all be all, where we believe all that's conflict, and you really need to just focus on being the advisor, being the person who has seen it, worked with you, quarterback the process, bring in the wealth advisor, the insurance, all as third parties, and help you drive your business forward. We have, from driving, ultimately, if tax savings is one of your goals, it should be one of your goals. not making all your business decisions on your tax bill. But really, we have experience in the sense of we've seen it, we've done it. Of course, firsthand, we're experiencing it as well as business owners ourselves. So we like the idea of the most trusted advisor, and we really try to live up to that, and can make a lot of introductions for those that services we don't perform.
Nice. So what are some key like mistakes that you're seeing being made by dentists or DSOs even when it comes to finances, especially in relationship to growth?
Yeah, no, great question. So one of the things I often tout, and I had the privilege of doing a presentation this morning, a virtual presentation, and it was interesting. I asked a question, and I knew where the answer was going to lie, but I asked the question, how often do you look at your monthly financials? Or do you even look at your monthly financials? 100% of the room, and I think there was 50 or 60 in the room, said no, they don't look at monthly financials.
Wow.
I anticipated the number at that high, and to me it was both not surprising and devastating at the same time. And what we found is in the industry, so we do a free client analysis. So anybody listening, anybody who wants to talk to us, we will do a free client analysis on any new client that we talk to or who wants to work with us and we possibly want to work with them. What we have found in this, fortunate decade and looking at about 20 to 30 new clients a month is I've only seen 5 financial statements that were accurately presented, only 5. And in all 5 cases, I told the client to stay with their current CPA. What we find is there's just not much love given to the financial statement process, and it may be because there's a lack of understanding or don't understand what that means. But it's quality information and making sure that the financials tell you a story and you can make decisions off that. When you think of not only a solo practitioner, but also a multi-location group, the biggest problems we see in the multi-location group are intercompany loans. You're funding the next location and you're funding it out of practice location number 2, out of number 3. So you're seeing monies moved between the 2 financials, but it doesn't always move appropriately. So you're seeing this intercompany loan, and intercompany loans don't balance. And I would say, again, 95% of the time they don't balance. And it seems a simple transfer, but when a bookkeeper isn't following up with each thing and they don't fully understand the transaction themselves, whether it's your office manager or a spouse or a bookkeeper who doesn't understand DSOs, they're going to get lost in all that money movement. But we believe in the core of our service offering is good financial statements, good fundamentals, because that leads to phenomenal budgets. And we budget every one of our business owner clients, and we budget down to the KPI. Right. So doctor days work, production per patient, number of patients seen, new to active patients, and we correlate that all back to the profit and loss on the balance sheet. The other thing that's crazy that we often see is no balance sheets. We just started working with a group out of Southwest and 12 location group, and there was not a single balance sheet across any of the entities. They didn't have one at all. So they're having to recreate, and they're working with a very reputable dental CPA firm that's, very reputable. Everybody knows the name. So so at the end of the day, it's one of those, if you're not working with the right person to grow your organization and trusting the process, you certainly need to talk to somebody who knows multi-location, knows DSOs, knows what that means to implement that process. You're costing yourself tax money and valuation, and that's what we see quite a bit.
Crazy. Yeah, I didn't realize it was that low. You can't see all my screens here, but I got one that is dedicated just to the money, and it's looked at every single day, sometimes more often than once. But yeah, crazy. So what systems or strategies should a dentist implement to make sure that they're hitting their practice's financial goals, would you say?
Yeah. So we look at several drivers, and EBITDA, EBITDA is one you hear about quite often.
Sure.
But we want to look at, for financial goals, we're looking at your basic benchmarks on your P&L, your dental supplies, your lab, your payroll, things that you can control, and being a good steward of your money and not trying to overspend in certain categories. The other one, of course, is we correlate those financials back to your practice management data. We're looking at doctor days work, production per patient, number of patients seen, collection ratio. We're really trying to drive that information out of your practice management software back to the financial statements. So there is a correlation between the two. And if I were sitting here today and you and I were talking and said, okay, Mike, I did 100,000 in production last month and I want to do 110 this month. Well, my first question would be, well, there were 20 doctor days last month. Are there 20 this month, or are there 21, or are there 18? If there's less doctor days, the likelihood of us filling our schedule enough to offset the 2 lost days in production may or may not be plausible. If you're having this conversation and say, okay, Mike, March last year we did 100. We know the spring break is the same. We have the same doctor days. And we have the same thing in March this year. Spring break hits the same time, all that, then great. Then let's look at our production per patient and look at, do we have a scheduling issue or do we have a utilization issue? Really, that's, we're really trying to measure, that's our drivers. For me, I measure time. You yourself probably measures time as well. And I sell time. Everybody, on this phone or listening would be selling patient care.
Right.
How many patients come through their office and how often?
Sure.
And are there case opportunities, or we just consistently seeing a hygiene patient base?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to a practice's finances, what are the key KPIs that you typically will look at to track and improve upon?
Yeah, the ones that we typically look at, we kind of get back to the fundamentals there. We see 5 or 6 main: doctor days work, production per patient, or total production, total collections. We look at those as compared to total patients seen. We want to look at new patients to active patients to see what is our correlation, or what is that ratio. If you're in a heavy transient area downtown, everybody's moving once a year. And, once a year is 17%. On average, they say 17% of America moves every year.
Right.
So if 17% of your patient base leaves tomorrow, are you ready for that? Have you replaced them? What have you done on the marketing side to set yourself apart? What type of new patient volume are you getting? And what's that cost per acquisition of patients? If you're in a heavy transient area and everybody moves, and your patient population, 25% of them move each year, well, that's a different metrics, and you have to market differently for that. If you're in the suburbs and nobody ever moves, then okay, you need to capture the new patient volume. You need to look for new case opportunities. Otherwise, you're going to have a heavy hygiene practice and not seeing much new restorative work opportunity.
Right. Interesting. Okay. Really, really good stuff there. So I saw that you said that traditional CPAs are reactive. How do you instead look forward, and what are some strategies for seeing what's coming to a dental practice that you may act proactively on?
Yeah. So we like budgets. We love budgets. And we budget everything. All these KPIs that we've talked about, we're going to budget to, and we don't flatline anything. So if we know there's 18 doctor days this month and 19 next month, 21 in 2 months, in addition, we know when you go on vacation, you bring in an associate, your production per patient, or the associate's production per patient may be down a little bit. We're going to measure that information and drive performance that way. We want to really see, that level of forward looking, not just taking the data that was given to us last month and say, we should have done this. If we take the example we spoke about this morning, and 100% of the room isn't getting monthly financials from their CPA, we've seen it to where the financials are 6, 7, 8 months old, and that's okay. That was their thought, is that's okay. That's just when I get them. So if you have this mindset of getting real-time information and knowing daily, weekly, monthly what you should look at, then that's very vital and important to work through that process.
Right. Interesting. Okay. So what do you believe a financial analysis can tell a dentist about their practice, or where they might be able to improve their performance?
Yeah, absolutely. You're doing a deep dive analysis. And when we typically do an analysis, we're looking at what are those measures? Where is there leakage within the organization? If we're trusting somebody, let's just take dental supplies. If we're trusting somebody else within our practice, which, as an owner, you need to trust your team. But if you're trusting them and you haven't built a process around the controllables, and you say, okay, you handle the supply ordering, order when you need it. And if that's the generic term we see supplies going 6, 7, 8, 9% of per revenue, when the industry standard is 5%, and multi-location DSOs, we've seen that go down to 4.5 and 4. I think I've seen the most efficient practice was 3.8, but I do think there was some starvation of supplies that was going on there. So 4.5 in a multi-location is good. We set for at least 5% bar. But if we don't put parameters and transparent on the budgets and internal controls, we can see that number climb up quite a bit. If we talk staff, the other thing we see quite often is staff, getting out of hand. I used the example this morning on a presentation that, anytime there's a problem, we've seen traditional practices can just, okay, we'll hire somebody else to do that. As opposed to fixing the process at hand, we just throw a whole nother body and a whole nother 40,000 a year, 35,000 a year of cost at a problem when it may just be a simple solution or something that needs to be fixed and tweaked and truly need to be explained. And before you know it, you have 8 or 9 staff to one doctor when we should have 5.5.
Right.
So those are the things where you see leakage, and what analysis will do is drive EBITDA. And what good financials will do will drive valuation. And we had a case this past year on a multi-location group. We actually had a couple big wins this year on just recasting the financial statements for sale. We had one where we took the valuation on the same set of financials from 100 million to 132 million.
Wow.
And just the same set of books, just getting the accounting right. And
Right.
we had another one, we took it from 15 to 25 million, same set of books. And what was interesting in all those examples, there was no change to taxes. The books just weren't representing what was really going on with the practices. So that's how we say it's so vitally important. And I know the first mindset is I don't want to spend money to get this right, or I don't want to spend money to, possibly fix the problem, when it's really costing, in some of these examples, millions of dollars long term, and just bad accounting. Simple
Right.
fixes.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, this kind of segues in. You have kind of an offer that you kind of came to the table to offer listeners and viewers of this summit here. Can you kind of dive into that? I think this is kind of a natural segue into what that might be.
Absolutely. So we love to offer a free analysis on financial statements, looking at the last 2 years' financials and tax returns, along with any internal reports that you have prepared. We'd love to offer that up to anybody listening today or through the ongoing recordings and reaching out to us. I believe our information will be published along with that as well. And what we'll do is we'll dive into the financials. We'll look for glaring inaccuracies and areas of opportunity for improvement, whether you work with us or you don't, and help you, guide you to what needs to be fixed in time, and help you kind of make some better decisions. Ultimately, we want everybody on this phone, you and I both want everybody on this phone to be successful.
Right.
And that's why we do seminars and education lectures like this, to where everybody can drive performance and we can all succeed in life.
Right.
So that's the goal.
And people can find out more about that at mwa-advisors.com/contact is what I have here. Is that accurate?
That would be great. Or email me at mike.white@mwa-advisors.com. Or look for my profile within the website, and they can check me out as well.
Awesome. Well, Mike, I appreciate you coming on and taking the time to fill everyone in on some really great areas of opportunity that you can help with, and ways that they can work to grow their practice in the right kind of mindset and foundational elements needed to move things along. I mean, it's like I said before the call, I'm completely behind everything that you guys do. I think that having your types of services makes a huge difference in business. It certainly helped us over the years, and I highly recommend people would reach out and at least take you up on your offer and just see if there's some area of opportunity, because I would almost guarantee there almost always is. So
yeah,
that's what we got today.
Thank you very much for your time, and appreciate everybody's listening to us today.
Thank you. Bye.